You will hear a number of different recordings and you will have to answer questions on what you hear. There will be time for you to read the instructions and questions and you will have a chance to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only. The test is in 4 sections. Write all your answers in the listening question booklet. At the end of the test, you will be given 10 minutes to transfer your answers to an answer sheet. Now turn to Section 1. Section 1. You're going to listen to a telephone conversation in which Francis Drew asks Mr. Harding about an arts club. First, you will have some time to look at questions 1 to 8. You see there is an example which has been done for you. On this occasion only, the conversation relating to this will be played first. Hello.
Hello, is that Appleton 363?
It is. Harding speaking.
Oh, are you... I'd like to speak to the secretary of the Arts Club.
Yes, speaking.
Oh, hello. My name is Francis Drew. I've just moved to the area, my classmate and I, and we'd be interested in joining the Arts Club, but we'd like some more information, really, about joining and the sort of activities you do.
Yes, well, what you want is our calendar. Ask at the library. I'll make sure there are plenty by Thursday. That all right for you? Mr. Harding tells Francis to get the calendar at the library on Thursday, so this has been written in the note. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not listen to the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 8. Hello.
Hello, is that Appleton 363?
It is. Harding speaking.
Oh, are you... I'd like to speak to the secretary of the Arts Club.
Yes, speaking.
Oh, hello. My name is Francis Drew. I've just moved to the area, my classmate and I, and we'd be interested in joining the Arts Club. But we'd like some more information, really, about joining and the sort of activities you do.
Yes, well, what you want is our calendar. Ask at the library. I'll make sure there are plenty by Thursday. That all right for you?
Yes, fine, thank you. But would you mind telling me how much it costs to join?
Membership fee? For an adult, it's £2.50 per year, of course.
What exactly does club membership entitle one to?
Entitle you to? Ooh, for a start, there's the club events. You get invited to them, of course. They're for members only, and they are free.
What sort of events are they?
You'll see what they are when you get hold of the calendar. But, well, there's the club evenings, for instance. Once a month, usually Wednesdays, from 8 till about 10.
And whereabouts do you hold them?
Club evenings? The Beach Pavilion. Do you know it?
No, I don't think I do. It's not near the seafront, is it?
No, up past the tennis courts on Park Avenue. You know where that is?
No, I'm afraid I don't. We'd soon find it, though.
Quite. I don't know what your interests are. Music? Got any musical talents?
I'm not sure about talents exactly. I like music. We both do.
Do either of you sing?
Oh, yes, we've both been in choirs.
There you are, then. The club's got a very fine choir. Very fine. I'm in it myself, as a matter of fact. We have practices every Friday evening, and it's no good just thinking of joining if you can't make the practices.
No, of course not. But what's the procedure? If we decide to join the choir or any of the other activities, how do we go about it?
You can't get in the choir without an audition. As far as the other sections are concerned, members have to apply through the section secretary in the first place.
Yes, right. And the fee again? I've written it down somewhere.
£2.50 each.
And where do we send it? To you?
No, I'm the secretary. It's the treasurer who deals with that. I'll give you his name if you want to write it down.
Yes, please.
His name is Hosegood. Hose, and then Good.
Yes?
Initial P, address 3 Clay Hill, Appleton.
Right, and it's all right to send a cheque?
That's the usual, yes. Payable to Appleton Arts Club, Appleton. APPLETON. Oh, and better put your address on the back as you're new. And incidentally, there's a newsletter out 3 times a year just to keep club members up to date with what's going on. They're sent out to everyone. Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 9 to 10. Now listen carefully and answer questions 9 to 10.
That's good. Just one last thing. Would you mind telling me what the other sections are so that I can tell my classmates?
The players, that's our acting group, I've told you. Choir, you know about. There's the gramophone circle, the music workshop, the literary and discussion group. Oh, that one meets in different members' homes. Then there's the studio workshop and what have I missed out? Oh yes, the arts talks. That's the lot, I think. The film society, that's the other one. Got them all?
Yes, just about. Thank you very much. You've been very helpful.
Not at all. Pleased to assist and look forward to meeting you and your classmate at the club.
Yes, thank you. Goodbye then.
That is the end of section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 2. Section 2. You will hear an introduction of the trip in Australia. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 15. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 15.
Do you want to come and enjoy 2 weeks of sunshine journey in Australia in the middle of this winter? We've put together a vacation that highlights 4 unique aspects of this spectacular continent. Australia is famous for its beaches. We begin at one of Sydney's finest, Bondi, and nearby Tamarama. Next come 3 days in the lush blue mountains at a charming B&B. Hike along the cliffs, rappel through a waterfall as you learn the new sport of canyoning, which is strictly optional, and watch colourful birds chase one another through the treetops. Set on a sparkling harbour, Sydney is perhaps the world's friendliest big city. Our 5 days there will be full of options: harbour cruises, theatre, great restaurants, museums, the famous opera house and vast botanical gardens. The Great Barrier Reef is undisputed among divers as the world's premier scuba spot. Non-divers can take a 1-day course and experience the excitement of diving in this surreal underwater world. There are also options for swimming, boating and an adventure into the nearby rainforest. If you've always wanted to see Australia, here's your chance. Our trip shows you much of this continent's unique variety. You can be as active or laid back as you want, which is why people ranging from their 20s to their 70s have joined us for Boomerang. I promise this trip is worth the money you paid. Remember, the price includes the welcome reception, luxury accommodation, double occupancy with living room and kitchen facilities at most spots, full breakfast or breakfast supplies every day, 2 lunches and 3 dinners. It also includes motor coach transfer to the Blue Mountains, the Sydney Harbour cruise, a full-day Great Barrier Reef cruise with lunch and swimming. Of course, the service of the tour guide is included in the price, and the guide will accompany the group at all locations. In addition, you will have a special wine tasting, which will highlight a variety of Australia's vintages. Things that are not included are airfare, souvenirs, snacks, admissions, meals not listed here, and optional activities.
Before you hear the rest of the introduction, you have some time to look at questions 16 to 20. Now listen carefully and answer questions 16 to 20.
You may have a lot of questions now. Next, I will answer some questions that are often asked. First, many people may wonder about the time that the trip starts and ends. In fact, this is a detail I forgot to introduce just now. Let me add it now. As for most of our trips, the official starting time is 6 p.m. on our start date. At that time, we'll have a reception and orientation, followed by a dinner. If you arrive sooner, however, or if you're already in Australia, we'll have a chance to meet at 1 p.m. for a walk along the beach and cliffs. No activities are planned for the last day, so you can depart at whatever time is best for you. If you do wish to arrive earlier or depart later, please note that check-in time is 4 p.m. and check-out time is 9 a.m. You can leave your luggage with the hotel desk if necessary. Some people may have suffered a wet journey before, so they care much about what the weather is like in Australia. February and March are late summer and early fall down under, where the seasons are reversed. In Sydney, you can count on warm days well into 70 degrees Fahrenheit. While you should be prepared for a day of rain, most days are likely to be clear and sunny. Weather will be similar in the Blue Mountains, 2 hours inland from Sydney, but temperatures will probably be about 5 degrees cooler, and the mountains are often overcast with the blue mist that gives this region its name. Up in Port Douglas and on the Great Barrier Reef, we'll be in the subtropics. Temperatures can reach 80 degrees Fahrenheit, but every day you have opportunities to cool off in the water, whether that's the Coral Sea, a river in the rainforest, or the hotel pool. This is considered the rainy season up north, but that generally means a few hours of rain during the day, not a full day, and it has never interfered with our chosen activities, swimming and diving, boating, and visiting the rainforest. You may have noticed I mentioned canyoning just now. A number of people are hearing this word for the first time. Therefore, they're eager to know what this canyoning activity is. Well, canyoning is a popular outdoor sport in Australia, New Zealand, and a few other countries. Those who try this activity generally say it's the most exciting day of the trip. I won't give any description of it. I'd like you to experience it in person.
That is the end of section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 3. Section 3. You will hear a discussion about university life. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25.
Oh, hello, Olaf. I haven't seen you for ages. How are things going?
Hello, Lisa. Hi, Sasha. Well, it's great studying here, but some things take quite a bit of getting used to. It's not like studying in my country.
Oh, I know. In my country, we used to go to lectures and get the lecturer's notes, and then we'd use those to write our essays. Here we have to read so much. I just can't keep up with it all. How do you find the reading, Lisa?
Yes, I agree. There is a lot to read. But I don't mind that. In fact, I like the reading. My problem is that it's all so interesting. I want to read more, and there just isn't the time. And that creates a problem with the essays for me. I feel like I can't cover the topics in the number of words assigned. Look at this assignment, for example. I'm supposed to discuss rational choice models for my economics essay in 3,000 words. I could write a book on that topic. In fact, several people have. How am I supposed to cover it in 3,000 words? Why do they have to impose a word limit anyhow?
Well, Lisa, remember, it's just an undergraduate essay. You're only supposed to demonstrate that you understand the concept, not apply it or anything. But I know what Sasha means about having too much to read. I think the most difficult thing with the reading for me, though, isn't the quantity, but all the new words. Words like hegemony and teleology that you need to understand thoroughly. I'm always being told by my tutors that I'm using them wrongly in my essays. And when I try and use them the same way as in the reading, the tutors say it's plagiarism.
I have a problem like that too. You know, you listen to the lectures and read the books and articles, and then you're supposed to come up with your own ideas for the essays. You're so full of everyone else's ideas. Where are you going to get your own from? And there's so much to say, it's difficult to organise. I spend hours planning an essay, and by the time I get to actually writing it all down, the deadline is up. I'm always having to ask for an extension. What about you, Lisa? You usually get good marks for your essays.
Yes, that's true. But I'm always doing the final draft in a hurry, and then the tutors complain that they can't read my handwriting. I think I'll have to learn to type, but when? And that's another thing I never seem to manage enough time for, lectures. Why are there so many? And they're always so early in the morning. I can't ever get out of bed in time for a 9 o'clock lecture.
Well, isn't that because you go to so many parties, Lisa? If you don't get home till 1 or 2 in the morning, how can you ever expect to be awake for a lecture?
If you ask me, that wouldn't make any difference. Most of the lecturers are so boring they'd put you to sleep anyhow. Why can't they make the lectures more interesting? After all, a lot of the subjects are fascinating, but the lecturers make them sound boring.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 26 to 30.
At least you can't say that about seminars. They're really interesting, and I think I get most benefit from them. You always find other students have read different books and articles, and so you get lots of new information in a seminar.
Yes, that's true, Lisa. But I still don't enjoy them because people disagree with each other all the time. And I don't like that. I don't like to hear people arguing. It really bothers me.
Oh, Olaf, you're supposed to argue in a seminar. And I really appreciate the chance to do that. Where I come from, women aren't supposed to argue or answer back. I do have to admit, however, that I get very nervous about having to give presentations. You know, when you have to read a paper. That's really scary.
Oh, Sasha, I can't believe that. That last paper you gave was so professional. In fact, I think you could do a better job than the lecturers.
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 4. Section 4. You will hear a university professor giving a presentation on city pollution. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40. Hello everyone. Good to see so many of you here today. Anyway, my name is Ivince Saunders from the University of Newcastle, and I'm going to talk to you today about modern city pollution. The talk should last about 20 minutes or so, but if you have any questions, please feel free to interrupt me. Now, if you look at this slide I've prepared, let me just get this machine working. Yes, there we go. Okay, now, as you can see, I'll begin by saying a little about noise pollution. I'll then move on to light pollution, and finally I'll say something about air pollution. Right, so first things first, noise pollution. Noise is something we're surrounded with all the time. It's everywhere, in fact. Even here in this room, there is noise. Apart from the sound of my voice, of course, we also have the noise of the projector that I'm using, as well as people moving in their seats or simply making notes. But most of the time, we don't even notice the noise. This is because we have become desensitized to noise. In other words, we hear the noise without realizing that we hear it. We simply block it out. The problem with modern cities, however, is that the noise level is often far too high. Noise level is measured in decibels, and on a normal, busy road in any modern city, the noise level from the traffic alone can range from 50 decibels to in excess of 70, even more in some cases. And this does not take into account noise from other sources, such as people talking, noise from a nearby construction site, or an airplane passing overhead. Of course, constant exposure to noise of this level is very harmful to people's hearing. In fact, it's a modern-day phenomenon that even people in their 40s have limited hearing ability compared to that of, say, a 10-year-old child. This is largely due to the level of noise that people are exposed to on a daily basis. And there's simply no getting away from it. Even most shops nowadays play loud music in the hope of attracting customers. The problems of noise pollution, though, extend much further than damaged hearing. It's also positively correlated with depression, stress, and even mental illness. And, of course, the effects of stress alone can be highly damaging. In fact, stress has been linked with many so-called modern diseases, such as heart disease, strokes, and even cancer. Noise levels grew significantly throughout the last century, increasing in line with the growth of modern cities. And this phenomenon is reflected in the type of music people listen to. Now, if we go back to the beginning of the 20th century, popular music of the time was very serene and harmonious. Classical music, mostly, that reflected the natural rhythms of nature. But as cities grew in size, the pace of life got quicker and the noise levels increased. Along with these changes came different types of music, including the fast-paced rock and roll, which later developed into rock music. In short, music became loud and brash, rather like city noise. And in many cases, it's generally acknowledged that people can't live without noise. It seems that we're so used to it that when there is no noise, life seems somehow empty or unfulfilling. Now, another problem that modern cities experience is light pollution. And again, light pollution is rarely considered to even exist, let alone be a problem. Yet, like noise, light is evident all the time. The problem's so bad, in fact, that it never actually gets dark in big cities, even at night. A large part of light pollution is from neon lights. You know the sort, those bright city lights that are used for advertising. But on top of that is the light from inside shops and department stores, which incidentally tend not to close, so that people live a 24-hour lifestyle. Then there are street lights and traffic lights. All of this adds up to a lot of light, and needless to say, an awful lot of wasted energy. Now, because cities never sleep, it's becoming increasingly common for people to stay up until late at night, or even early in the morning, going shopping, meeting friends in nightclubs or bars, or simply wandering the streets at night. And this plays havoc with people's internal body clocks. In fact, the body often has difficulty knowing when it's time to sleep and when it's time to wake, which of course creates even more stress. It's hardly surprising, therefore, that stress-related illnesses are so common these days. Anyway, so far in my talk, I've mentioned noise pollution and light pollution. Now I'd like to move on to the final part of my talk today, which is air pollution. Now, air pollution is, of course, a very serious issue, and all cities are heavily polluted, much of which comes from the amount of traffic that's on the roads. And in developing countries, the problem's made worse because of industrial pollution. In fact, in many cities, Mexico and Bangkok being good examples, a dirty brown haze, which, in effect, is a cloud of pollution, hangs over the city all the time. And it's this dirty air that people have to constantly breathe day and night. Needless to say, the implications are that people's health suffers. In fact, the rate of respiratory disorders, that is to say, diseases of the lungs, such as asthma and emphysema, are far higher in cities than they are in smaller towns or rural areas. It would seem, therefore, that cities are literally being choked, and so are the people. The suffering this causes should never be discounted. The problem is, however, that suffering cannot be measured. Effects on the economy, on the other hand, can, or at least they can be assessed. In fact, economists estimate that somewhere in the region of 150 working hours are lost every year in London alone because of pollution-related illnesses. And this puts a great strain on the economy. It puts a strain on the economy because if people lose time from work because they're ill, the company they work for becomes less efficient and ends up making less profit than it would otherwise make. And because industry is responsible for generating wealth, then the economy suffers. However, we must also consider that if someone is ill, they'll often not seek the advice of a doctor. Now, of course, medical services are limited, so the extra strain put on medical resources causes even more problems. So it would seem there's an urgent need to control air pollution in big cities. Okay then, so to summarise my talk today, I focused on big cities and looked at 3 different types of pollution: noise pollution, light pollution, and finally air pollution. I've tried to present the problems that exist as a means of raising awareness so that we all become more conscious of the problems. But if you're interested in reading more about this topic, my new book, which explores city life in some depth, is on sale at the back of the room. Anyway, I shall end my talk here, so unless any of you have any questions, all that's left to say is thank you for attending today, and please enjoy the buffet lunch that the organisers have laid on for you. But please remember, keep the noise down. That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers. That is the end of the test. You now have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet.